All righty. So again, welcome everyone. I am Shannon Taylor, and you are joining us for our Dream Pitch Program 2022 information session. This session is being recorded. All registered participants will receive a link to this recording as well as the presentation slides at the end of this session. Throughout the session, please feel free to drop any questions or comments that you might have throughout the presentation. We have built in some time at the end where we could answer very specific questions, so you will have the opportunity to unmute yourself and ask those questions directly. Anything that is dropped in the chat, my team member Cynthia will be gathering those questions throughout the presentation and teeing those up so I can answer and address them at the end of this session. So with that, we are going to go ahead and get started. All right, so our agenda today is going to be just generally a program overview. We are going to walk through all of the details about the Dream Pitch program, from the application deadlines to eligibility requirements. We're even going to do a deep dive through the selection process, as well as the program application questions and the pitch program acceptance process. If you have any questions of anything that is shared here today, feel free to reach out to myself or any member of the DSLBD NOED team at the email listed below, and that is inno.ed@dc.gov. That email is managed by myself and several other team members, and we will be able to answer any questions you have specifically related to the presentation as well as the Dream Pitch program. And so let's go ahead and jump right in. The one thing that I want to make sure that everyone is aware of, and we will walk through all of the details of this program, but there are a set of official application instructions that are available up on the website. I encourage you, if you have not already, to definitely access that those instructions so that you are aware of all of the program details. And once you visit this web page, you will also be able to access the direct link to the application, as well as additional resources to support you throughout the application process for this Dream Pitch program. So we're going to start by a general program overview. What is the Dream Pitch program? Where did it originate, and where are we going now? So the 2022 Dream Pitch program is a cohort-based training program for resident-owned micro businesses in Wards 7 and 8. All right. And so businesses accepted into this competitive program will complete an 8-week training program, extensive training program, to receive direct business development support. Some of those business development support options will be mentorship opportunities, support with pitch practice and developing your pitch deck for your business, as well as additional training topics that are very relevant to small businesses. Businesses that complete this program will pitch their business for direct funding at the completion of the 8 weeks of training, in an attempt to receive between $2,000 and $7,500 in direct funds to the business, plus in-kind services. We do ask that you please stay muted throughout the presentation. We will have time at the end for Q&A. All right. So the program will focus on 3 top pillars specific to small businesses, as they're listed below. Those pillars will be accounting and bookkeeping for your small business, marketing and branding, and then mentorship. These concepts we have identified are critical to business development and specifically to become a sustainable business. And so many of the training platforms, as well as the additional in-kind services at the end, will lead the charge on these 3 pillars that we find are very, very integral to the success of small businesses, and is very important from when you first formulate and start your business, establishing these pieces very early on typically lead to very sustainable businesses for many, many years to come. And so, as I mentioned, this is a cohort-based training. And so the program timeline is outlined here. Applications for this program opened on February 1st, and they are set to close on April 1st at 2 p.m. So the application for this program is still currently open. We have a little less than a month left for all of you to submit your applications. And so during this application period, we have hosted several information sessions. We will answer any questions that you might have directly to this program via email, as well as on our live information sessions. And the other thing I wanted to share is that weekly on Thursdays from 2:30 until 4 o'clock, we are offering drop-in Q&A sessions. And so you can also register for those sessions on the Eventbrite page, and we'll make sure we get that link over to you as well. Those sessions are not as formal as this information session. They are really just creating space and opportunity for small business owners to connect with us as you're navigating and completing your application. So we definitely encourage you to drop into one of those sessions, and we will hold those weekly on Thursdays up until the deadline of the pitch program. So applications will close on April 1st, 2022. The applications will be scored by a competitive scoring team, and businesses will be accepted. Between June and August is where we will be running those weekly training sessions. We will meet once a week. All sessions will be virtual. They will be for about 2 hours once a week, and businesses are required to attend those weekly training sessions. From August until September is where we will be having businesses to do their pitch prep sessions. Throughout the weekly training, there will be opportunity for you to develop your pitch deck, to practice your pitch, but we will specifically set aside 2 weeks in August that you will work directly through those sessions to make sure that your pitch is all ready to go for the actual pitch event that will take place in September. And so for those of you who may have been familiar with the Dream Grant program, I thought it was very important for us to kind of just show the history of that and how the Dream Grants have now culminated into the Dream Pitch program. And so the Dream Grants, just to give you a little history, they started back in 2018. And under the Dream Grants program, we have awarded $750,000 total of direct funding to micro businesses in Wards 7 and 8. Over the course of those years, we have granted over 70 plus businesses, and they have been through a traditional competition of a competitive grant application. We continue to engage our Dream Grant alumni through drop-in sessions, as well as stakeholders meeting with some of those alumni throughout the years. Each year from 2018 up until now, we have worked diligently to try to streamline Dream Grant eligibility. And this year, digging deeper to push the purpose of the Dream Grants, which are a way to be as equitable as possible to engage businesses and to make the opportunity available for all micro businesses. And so with that, we are being innovative in creating what you now know, and what this application will serve is the Dream Pitch program. So the Dream Pitch, as I mentioned, will be a cohort of businesses. We understand that it is important for businesses to have a community and a network that they can continue to rely on and tap into. Development of training courses. We will have funding awards. We will offer direct to business support services, not only internal to DSLBD, but also pulling in some of our sister agencies throughout the program to include DCRA, as well as the Office of Tax and Revenue. And that is really where we're seeking to help you to build relationships with government and partners. Here on the screen is a picture from a previous Dream Grant cycle where our director, Christy Whitfield, is pictured with several other Dream Grant awardees. And the reason for putting and sharing this picture is that we wanted to share the diversity and the types of businesses that are represented here. In this photo, we have a contract business. We also had a hair salon company, a nail shop. And so that just speaks to the diversity in the businesses that we find engaged through the Dream Grant program, and that we hope to continue to engage through the Dream Pitch program. And so this list here just lists several of the types of businesses that have been awarded and are now community leaders engaging with the Dream Pitch program. We have represented lawyers, graphic designers, returning citizen businesses, hair salons, doctors, caterers, home daycare centers, architects. We've had life coaches, we had urban farmers. And so really this just speaks to the diversity and the type of businesses that have been able to competitively be awarded this grant in the past, and that we are optimistic will be able to compete in the Dream Pitch program this year. And so moving to program overview, we want to jump right into the application and application deadlines. As I mentioned before, the application is open. It is set to close April 1st, 2022 at 2 p.m. and there are no exceptions to that deadline. All applications must be submitted through our third-party application service, which is located here on the screen, dreamgrants.com. We do not accept any applications via email or any other methods, in addition to any documents being emailed over. Everything as it pertains to this grant must be submitted in that system by 2 p.m. And all applications are time and date stamped. So we encourage you to apply earlier than later instead of trying to beat the deadline. Application deadlines, I know we mentioned the final deadline, but there are two others that I wanted to share with you that are also important. We offer a pre-eligibility review. A pre-eligibility review is a courtesy review and determination on eligibility on a rolling basis. As you can see, that deadline is quickly approaching, and that is March 11th at March 11th. So if you are planning, if you have submitted your application or started an application prior to March 11th, myself and another member of the team will go through and review the eligibility portion of your application only to see if those documents have been accepted, therefore making your application eligible to move forward on the scoring and competitive portion of the application. All applications received by March 11th will receive that courtesy review. You will receive an email specifically letting you know if your application has been deemed eligible for scoring, or if it has not yet been deemed eligible. And if it has not, what corrections or updates need to be made so that you are eligible to move forward in the competitive portion of the application. Additionally, as I mentioned, we take questions on all information sessions. We also will answer questions directly on our drop-in Q&A sessions. Outside of that, we do not accept phone calls about any of our pitch programs or grant programs. And so all questions must be sent via email to that email address I shared earlier, no.ed@dc.gov. And all questions should be submitted by March 29th. And that is really just because that date we will ensure that you will receive a response back. After the 29th, we cannot ensure that you will receive an answer to your question. And sometimes those questions are very imperative to be answered before you can submit your application. So please, as you're thinking through and as we dig into the information here in a bit, please make sure you're making notes and asking those questions while you have us live on the line. And of course, again, I would be remiss if I did not mention the final deadline of April 1st at 2 p.m. All right, eligibility requirements for this Dream Pitch program. We talked about them a little bit at the beginning, but eligible micro businesses must have fewer than 5 employees. The business must be located in Ward 7 or 8. And you, as the owner or majority owner, if you have a partnership or any, you're not a single member business or a single member LLC, 51% of the owner of the business must be a resident of Ward 7 and 8. That means if you are a sole proprietor, that means you own 100% of your business. You must also be able to show and prove that you also reside in either of those wards, okay? Additionally, one thing to note, this program is only for-profit businesses are eligible for this program, and businesses that have received Dream Grant funding in the 2021 are not eligible to apply for the Dream Pitch 2022 program. And so again, the eligibility requirements are very important. We want to make sure that you are clear on what they are, and then also specifically what documents are required in order to prove and meet eligibility. And so we're going to jump into that now. In the application, you will see, in addition to just general business details and details about yourself, you will need to provide proof of residency. Proof of residency is a utility bill. It could be a paycheck stub, and we're going to go into some more of those items here in just a second. Additionally, you will need to provide your business location. Of course, that location address will be checked against the master address repository here in DC, just to ensure that it is an address located within Ward 7 and 8. That address, if you are a home-based business, can be your home address. You do not have to be a brick and mortar business in order to qualify for this grant. You must attest to being the majority owner, as well as attest to the business size, and then attest to meeting vaccine requirements. And we're going to dig into those items here in just a bit. So let's go ahead and dig in. All right. Required documents and attestations for eligibility. When you go into your application, as I mentioned, there's going to be 2 parts to the application. There'll be an eligibility piece, and then there'll be a competitive application part. Before you can move on to the competitive portion, you will need to complete the eligibility section of the application. In that section, you will have 2 required uploads. That will be a copy of your valid ID. That can be a DC driver's license or a DC non-driver's identification card, or your passport. We will not accept state IDs from any other jurisdiction. It must be issued from DC. Additionally, you'll provide proof of Ward 7 and 8 residency. That document that is uploaded must be dated February 1st of 2022 or later, okay? We want to make sure that those documents are valid during the actual period of application. Acceptable documents to provide your proof of residency, as I mentioned before, could be a utility bill. It could be a bank statement. Feel free on the bank statement. You can redact any of the transactional or balance information, but we do need to be able to verify your name and mailing address and the banking institution, of course. You can also issue a government check, a formal government letter verifying residency, or your pay stub. Please ensure, if you are uploading your pay stub or your paycheck, that document does in fact show your name as well as your address. We do not accept deeds or water bills as a form of proof of residency. Okay, so we do not take a deed and we do not take a water bill. Outside of that, every other utility bill is accepted. The business address, as I mentioned before, you're simply just going to input that into the system, and we will verify that the address is located within Ward 7 or 8 on our end. So please you don't have to worry about that. We'll do that check on our side. So please make sure that the address that you are entering, that you're properly entering the address, as well as correct quadrant information for that address. So as I mentioned, 2 uploads and then an input of information. The other eligibility requirements will be a simple attestation. Attestations are a statement that you will, by, in this case, typing in your name as a acknowledgement and an acceptance of that statement to be true and in fact, a true statement for you or your business. And so the other items simply are questions. You will type your name in the box if those statements are true. And that will be attesting that you are majority owner of the business, that you have 5 or fewer employees, full-time employees, and that also that you will be able to meet the vaccination requirement before the program starts. So these eligibility pieces are all in order to determine eligibility for the competitive scoring. Here in a second, you will see that there will be additional eligibility requirements after you have completed your competitive scoring and if you have been accepted into the program. Okay. Verification for the attestations for the vaccination requirement. It will basically be an attestation that you as an applicant will be able to demonstrate and verify proof of COVID-19 vaccination and or applicable booster by the start date of the program. All right. So as I mentioned before, eligibility comes before scoring. So before your application will actually move to be scored, you have to meet eligibility. The eligibility review is conducted internally. It will happen once the application period closes, unless you submit before the March 11th deadline to meet that pre-eligibility review. And so otherwise, applications will not be screened until after April 1st. If there is any missing or incorrect information, documentation, the application will stop there. It will be deemed not eligible, and therefore it will not move forward for the competitive portion of the application. Once you have met all of the application eligibility pieces, we then encourage you to begin the competitive portion of the application, and your application will be moved into that bucket to receive scoring from our review panel. The competitive review is done by a panel of DC government employees internal to DSLBD, as well as outside, as well as community partners will be pulled into that panel. Those competitive reviewers will not look back to eligibility. That will already have been closed, and they will be only looking entirely about the answers to the competitive questions as it goes against the scoring criteria, which we're going to jump into here in a second. Okay. So again, remember, continue to drop those questions in the chat because we are almost nearing the end here, and we'll go ahead and tee those up. So you've completed your eligibility, you've met eligibility, your application then was scored by the competitive panel, and so now the competitive panel is looking to review and select participants for the actual program. I already mentioned everything about the panel. After the panel does their scoring, the director of DSLBD will make final determination of program participants based on the review panel recommendations, okay? The review panel will be scoring and evaluating all eligible applications based on the scoring criteria here on the right side of the screen. In the questions, they want to be able to clearly you want to be able to clearly communicate that you have a benefit in participating in this Dream Pitch program for the participation, not only in the training and the cohort, but also in the funding that all businesses will be awarded at the end of this competitive process. You need to clearly be able to communicate your business goals and the growth potential. Again, that speaks directly to the purpose of the Dream Pitch program. It is to help businesses to grow, to be sustainable, as well as the commitment to the business. How committed are you as a business owner to your business, to the development of your business, and to the growth of your business? And so we're going to go ahead and walk through the application questions. So you'll be able to actually see the specific questions that will be asked on the competitive portion of the application before you even start. And this is important to show because part of what we want you to be able, what we want you to be able to see is how the questions on the actual on the actual program application are grouped in the way of the scoring criteria, okay? And so the first questions here, the 3 questions listed here, will be all scored against the scoring criteria or scoring rubric of a clear benefit for participation in the Dream Pitch program. The first thing we're going to want to know is just tell us about your business generally. What does your business do? How long have you owned it? And who runs it day to day? This is just you telling us about your business. We don't know anything about the business, even if we have interacted at some point. We want to know all about the business. Tell us about your customers and describe the market for your goods and services. Who are your customers? Who is your community? And then lastly, what are the biggest challenges and needs your business faces right now? And how will this program help you to overcome them? And so these questions are scored they are weighted 25% to the total score of the actual grant application, okay? All right, the next set of questions fall in the business goals and growth potential. And that is weighted against 50% of the scoring. And of course, again, that just speaks to the overall purpose of this being a growth-driven and sustainability-driven program. What is your dream for your business? We want to know what is your vision? Where do you see your business in 5 years, in 2 years, in 10 years? And that we want you to be able to really just tell us the dream. It can be as big as you would like, but more or less, if you could get and your business could become everything that you wanted it to what would that be? The second question, how do you plan to create awareness and promote your business? Okay. How are you actively promoting your business now? How do you create awareness around your business, whether you're offering a product or a service? Question 3, what impact would mentorship, marketing, and accounting support have on the business? As you know, we mentioned those are the top 3 pillars for this whole program. And lastly, how will you seek to grow the business as a result of this program? After completing the training, after receiving funding, after receiving in-kind services, what is your plan for your business to grow? Do you plan to pivot, find new customers? How are you going to use the funding? Those are the sorts of things that you can share in this section of the application. And then lastly, for the last portion of the scoring rubric, which is 25%, your commitment to the business. Tell us the why behind the business. How did the business come to be? When you've probably heard of this, people always speak to what is your why? Why did you create the business? Why did you start this? What was the problem that you were seeking to solve? And as a solution, this business was created. How did it come to be? Where did it start? Where did it begin? Tell us that backstory of your business, okay? What preparation went into starting the business? How did you plan once you had that business idea to get the business off the ground? What did you do to prepare for this business to be operational? And then lastly, we just want you to upload one visual document about your business and explain it, okay? One photo, it could be of your product, it could be you with a customer, it could be anything. We just want one visual document that a scorer can look at that will continue to help us to understand that dream and that vision for your business. And we just want you to explain it. Okay. So program acceptance. As I stated before, notifications for businesses that are accepted into the program will be sent out on or before June 1st of 2022. And the program will start in June. We anticipate it'll probably be towards the end of June, running through August, but those dates are still very much up in the air. At that time, once you are selected, program participants will be required to submit and confirm the following before participation in the program, as well as confirming and finalizing before the final pitch. Okay, so in order to receive funds, just to give you an idea, businesses need to participate in the 8 weeks of training. Additionally, in any other pitch practice, businesses must participate in the actual pitch event. The pitch event will be a all-day event where businesses will have between 5 to 7 minutes to do their official business pitch to a panel of judges for scoring. Based on those scores is how funding amounts will be determined. If your business does not pitch in that pitch competition, you will not be eligible to receive funds under this pitch program. Okay. So before the program starts in June, I mentioned this before, there's application eligibility, and then there's eligibility at the time of selection. That is when before the program rolls out and starts in June, you will be required to upload and show your proof to the attestation of the COVID-19 vaccination and applicable boosters. Okay, so that is just simply uploading your vaccination card to reflect those dates, and that will need to be submitted before the first day of training in June. Now, as I mentioned, businesses that participate in this program, if you remember, there are no mention or ask of business licensure or your corporation documents or any of that at the time of application. However, by week 6 of the program, selected businesses must be able to provide the following. You will need to provide your employment identification number or EIN number. You'll then be required to prove majority ownership of the business. If you are an LLC, you will need to provide your articles of incorporation.
Can you mute yourself, please?
Yep, all set. You will need to provide your corporation registration documents. And if you are a sole proprietor, which is fine, you will not have registered through the corporation division, but you more than likely will have a DBA or a trade name registration. We definitely want to see that, as well as you will have to attest that you are a sole proprietor. And then you will also need to provide your valid DC business license number that we will search in the DCR business license system to verify. Some of you on the line might already have gone through this entire regulatory process. Therefore, at week 6, we will just start working with you to get that information uploaded. And then we also require at that time that you are able to provide proof of a business bank account. So some of you might be wondering, I haven't gone through the regulatory process. I'm a little unclear about that process. I'm not sure. That is why throughout the 8 weeks of training, we will have DCRA as a partner to support all businesses through this process that have not completed that. DCRA will be available during the 8-week weekly sessions, in addition to offering one-on-one technical assistance appointments to businesses and business owners, walking you through that regulatory process and supporting you so that you are able to meet all of these requirements by week 6 of the program. If, again, I say if you have not already done these items for your business to date. Okay. All right. I already mentioned this. In addition to meeting the eligibility and providing all of the after accepted eligibility documents, you must, and you are expected to maintain active participation in the 8-week program. And we also expect you after the 8 weeks to pitch your business, right? We are going to support you through this pitch. We'll have pitch deck prep, how to prepare your slides, what information to include. And so that is the expectation, that we do want businesses to not only get the training and the topics, but also feel confident and move confidently in pitching your business, because that is something that you will continue to do if you haven't already, throughout the life cycle of your business, whether pitching to, sharing about your business is a form of a pitch to your customers. Pitching for funding is definitely the pitch that most people are familiar with, but we will support you, and we anticipate that all businesses will participate in that pitch session. And of course, again, businesses that meet these requirements will be the only businesses allowed to pitch in the final Dream Pitch event that will happen in September. And pitches are required in order to receive funding. And so we're nearing the end of the slides. Just a couple reminders. Again, application deadline. Again, if you plan to apply, please try to get something in the application system by March 11th so that you can receive that courtesy eligibility review. And again, as I mentioned, every week on Thursday from 2:30 until 4, you can register for one of our Q&A drop-in sessions if you have any specific questions about the grant. Lastly, I did want to share that in addition to the Dream Pitch program, my coworker Carolyn Howe is also managing our We Aspire Pitch program, and that application is also open. The We Aspire program is similar to the Dream Pitch program in that it is a cohort-based training. That program, however, will go through 12 weeks of interactive workshops, and then leading to a pitch competition as well. But businesses that are eligible for the We Aspire must be owned or led by a returning citizen entrepreneur. And so that application will also close on April 1st. At 2 p.m. But I encourage you, if based on my general description, you meet that eligibility, to definitely also explore that program. And you can learn more about the We Aspire program here at the link as well. And so there have also been information sessions for the We Aspire program, and those previous recordings will be up on the agency's YouTube page. And we'll be sure to include that link once we send over the slide presentation and recording from today to all participants. And so with that, I know this tends to be the most important and critical piece of the information session, and that is the Q&A. So I do want to make sure that we are able to set aside time not only to answer questions that might have come through in the chat, but if anyone wants to unmute themselves and ask as well. So let's go ahead and start with what might be in the chat, and then I will allow everyone to unmute themselves to ask their questions specifically. And since
all right, yes. So the first question we have is, my nonprofit corp is DBA, Youth Dollars and Cents University. Would that qualify?
So again, this pitch program is only eligible for for-profit businesses. Whether the nonprofit has a DBA or not, it must be deemed a for-profit business, and so it will need to be registered with the corporation, the corporation's division as such. So based on the question as it reads, if you're saying you're a nonprofit, you will not meet eligibility for this pitch program.
Okay, and then I have another one. Well, that's pretty much, you pretty much answered that. It says,
okay.
Would that qualify?
It's a continuation to the question.
Profit.
Would that qualify for a for-profit business?
Yes.
The qualification is that you are registered as a for-profit business, and so that registration with the corporations division is really the document that we will be looking for to ensure that it is a for-profit business. And will the rubric for scoring be shared? So yes, the rubric that's shared and walked through, that is in the official request for, the official application instructions document. I am happy to drop that link to that document in the chat here now. The official application instructions outlines everything that I went over today, as well as the link for the application system. And we just encourage everyone to visit the Dream Pitch program page up on our website so that you can access all of those documents. But yes, the competitive questions are included in that document, as well as the scoring rubric as well. So from what I can see, I think that's all the questions that were dropped into the chat. But Derek, I do believe that you have a question that you've unmuted. You can definitely feel free to ask your question. Derek, did you have a question for us?
Can you hear me?
We can hear you now. Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Do you need to have your license? I think my license got revoked over the COVID period.
Okay.
Can you apply for this grant and possibly use those funds to pay for the license?
So the funds cannot be used to pay for the license, but you must be able to provide a valid identification card, if not, driver's license, in order to apply for the actual pitch program. So we have seen, because DMV, was shut down during the COVID period and they're kind of pulling out of that, some folks might have like the temporary paper identification card if they renewed or anything like that, but it must be a valid ID card. Go ahead.
I'm referring to the business license for your business.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Thank you for clarification. I'm sorry. So as I mentioned, the business license requirement will not have to be, you don't have to worry about that requirement until once accepted until week 6 of the program. So what I will say is that, of course, funds will not be awarded prior to that. So if you have back fees or things that you need to correct within the regulatory process, you will need to expend those funds out of your personal money. And then, at the end, at the competitive portion of that, with the funds that you receive, you can reimburse yourself. So all businesses will receive a minimum of $2,000 just for completing and pitching the business. Of course, based on scoring of the judges, your business can receive up to $7,500. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay, thank you for that. I think something else just came in the chat.
Do you have to have your insurance in place?
No, sir, you do not. We are not asking for your proof of general liability insurance or anything like that throughout this program. And reason being, we will have community partners that will be helping us to facilitate this training system, as well as issue of funding awards. And so therefore that requirement, unless they ask for it specifically, that is not something that we will require of businesses to provide proof of.
Someone would like to know, when is the review period for eligibility? For the application.
Yes, so the pre-eligibility review period is set to end on March 11th, 2022, by, of course, close of business. So if you want to receive an email with direct feedback from the team, you do need to have started or submitted all of your eligibility documents prior to that date. Outside of that, eligibility will only be reviewed at the conclusion of the actual application period, which is April 1st of 2022 at 2 p.m.
Do you have to be vaccinated?
Yes, so as I mentioned, there is a vaccination requirement to participate in this program. At the time of application, you are simply just going to attest that you can meet that requirement. That requirement did come down from legislation directly from the mayor's office, and that is because the program at the end, the pitch will culminate in an in-person event. And so we are still remaining in the posture that applicants in order must meet that vaccination. So you will attest that you can meet it by the start date of the program if you are selected, which is going to be, we'll say by June 1st. And then at week 6, we'll say you'll have to provide it by June 1st. We will need that before programming actually starts. But yes, it is a requirement in order to participate in the program. Nathan, you raised your hand. You have a question?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, good afternoon. I was the one who raised the question about the pre-eligibility review.
Okay.
I have already submitted my documentation and for the application. I completed the application.
Okay.
The first part, and the day is the 8th, so I suspect that if I haven't gotten any type of contact by then, I guess my paperwork is okay.
We
Because
are
the day
still in
is
the
the 8th.
process. No, I totally understand. So what will happen is, as you can imagine, we get a lot of applications. And so we have started that eligibility review. With the team might not have gotten to your application yet, but I can assure you, as long as you submitted it before March 11th, you will receive feedback from us and with an ability to make those corrections by the April 1st deadline. So I will check that and we should be getting something out to you for sure before the end of this week.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Cynthia, are there any other questions in the chat that you see?
Well, I want to ask
No
you.
questions in the chat.
The application process of what to get the questionnaire is at zoomgrants.gov.
Yes. Are you able to access the chat?
I'm going to write it down now.
Okay, it's going to be a lot to say, so it
I had www.zoomgrants, but that's
I'm
done.
gonna drop it in the chat and then I'll tell you what it is again. Give me
Okay.
one. And typically what I will say, there is a direct link to the application, but we definitely encourage folks to access that official application instructions. The reason why I say that, if for some reason there are any updates to that information, those documents are updated on a consistent basis. And so let me get you the link. I'm looking for it here. But I'll share with you the direct link to Zoom Grants as well. I did drop the link for the Dream Pitch Program website in the chat, but the direct link to apply for the program it's going to be www.zoomgrants.com/Z as in zebra, G as in George, F as in Frank, /dream, DREAM, pitch, PITCH, 2022. And I dropped that link in the chat as well. That is the link to the direct application. But again, all instructions will be there, but I encourage everyone to review the web page so that you can actually access the official application instructions. That is where you will find the competitive application questions again, as well as the scoring rubric and all of the selection criteria. So I know we are getting close to time here, but I want to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to ask any questions that they have. If you are not sure, or you might have questions later, feel free to email us at innO.ed@dc.gov. Just put Dream Pitch Program in the subject line, and we will answer those questions as well. Remember, we do not take phone calls, but we are actively answering emails. And the last thing that I will drop in the chat and share for those that might be interested will be the link to Eventbrite. if you're interested in signing up for one of the drop-in question and answer sessions, which will be available during the duration of the application period. Did I miss anything in the chat, Cynthia?
You got everything.
All right, so I am going to go ahead and stop the recording here.